Mm. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday morning success habit training that we're doing here live every Monday morning at 9 a.m. And for those of you that are students, this is just going to complement the stuff that we're talking about in class, which we've been talking about the rules of success, and we're talking about showing up and what that means. And I think this is actually like the perfect week or month. It coincides because of the Olympics and how our Olympians, our Olympic athletes are showing up in their different divisions. I think I saw on the news this morning that we have the first ever girl gold medalist in Taekwondo. How exciting is that? So like they're showing up in a big way, and they're demonstrating and leading this concept. But for those of you that maybe not have seen the week before's training, is we talked about what showing up means. And sometimes showing up just means getting up, getting dressed, and going and doing the next thing that you know that you should do, even though you don't want to. But it also, I think, is like the gymnast Simone. She's been very transparent in that, you know, she had some nerves. She's had some nerves, and her first day wasn't her best day, but she still showed up, right? She still showed up. She did the thing. She did the hard thing, and that's the concept that we're really, really, really talking about. And we get to do this. We get to do this in our martial arts classes every day. We show up to class. We get to be challenged in a new way. We leave the mat understanding, wow, I just did something I never thought I could do. And then we get to show up again, and we get to build that muscle. So we can still build that muscle if you don't train, if you're not an athlete, if you don't train in martial arts. It just has to look a little different. And sometimes you don't always have the support that you need to kind of keep that going. So remember, we do that on Wednesdays with how to stay motivated. So don't worry about like learning this concept and not knowing how to do it, because we're going to help you with that on Wednesday. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just remind you guys the questions that you needed to answer. So I think I want to share screen 2. Yep. Okay. So the questions that we wanted you to answer from the training from last week was like to be really, really honest with yourself and answer, where are you not showing up in your life right now? We all know those places where we're doing the bare minimums, or we're doing just what is expected of us. Maybe it's the spot where we've lost our passion. Maybe it's a spot where we just know that we should be doing better, but we just can't seem to make ourselves do it. Where is that for you? And then if it's not the same thing, then maybe how are you not showing up? And for my students, you know, I posed it to them as a martial artist, as a parent. What are some things that we could be doing differently as a professional? So maybe we're doing a good job, but good isn't great, and great isn't exceptional. And are we happy with doing a good job? Are we happy with good results? Or do we want to be great? Do we want to be exceptional at the things that we do? And then picking just one area, just one area that you can take action today, right? And so then we followed up with this week's training with our leadership students, and I asked them exactly, how are you showing up in your life? So those are the questions from last week that we should have answered, and we should have taken some action. And I'm hoping that you did, because we're not going to get anywhere different if we don't do things differently, right? So I'm hoping that you took some action. And then how did you show up when you took that action? Like, really, did it feel good? Was it easier than you thought it could be? These are the things that I have found are the case when we do these things. That when we take that next thing, doesn't have to be a huge thing. That's where people kind of mess up with this concept, is they think they have to go from 0 to 60, but you just have to go from 0 to 5, and then from 5 to 10, and then 10 to 15. Right? You just have to do just a little bit better and show up a little bit more and get a little bit more confidence. So don't think you have to have a change overnight. Nothing happens overnight, right? The media tricks us when they think that, because all of a sudden these people come out of nowhere where they've been working for 10, 15 years. The Olympic athletes are the prime example. They've been working for years towards what they're achieving this week. But, you know, sometimes we forget that process. So don't forget that process. So my question to you this week is, how are you showing up, and how do you want to show up? Right. So we talked about from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15. So we know we want to be better. But on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're at a 3 now or a 4 now, what does 10 look like? What does showing up, I mean, whatever area you choose, right? It could be your health, it could be your finances, it could be your professionalism, it could be for me as a martial artist, it could be as a human being, it could be as a wife, it could be as a husband, whatever the area is. How do you want to show up? Like in a perfect world where nothing stopped you, there were no obstacles, and you could do anything that you want because you can, because you can, what would a 10 look like? Because you got to know where you are. And then you have to know where you want to go if you're ever going to get there. We can't just wish and hope and pray without knowing those two things. We got to know a starting point, we have to know an ending point, and then we have to have a plan to get there. All right. So this is what we're talking about. You need to have this information concrete, just the one area, because what I wanted to talk about today was, how do we implement this? Okay, so now that we know this, great, we know it. We like to do what we like to do. We don't like to do it, but everybody does it. That negative self-talk about, yeah, well, I was going to do it, I already do it. If I already knew how, it'd already be done. If this was going to happen for me, it would already happen. And that's not the case, right? We got to just change our thinking a little bit. So I wanted to talk about how to implement these changes, how to go from where we are to where we want to go. And you're going to have to show up every day. And you're going to have to understand that you have to know, I'm going to come over here to the very first one. Why is it so important that you make these changes? Right? Grant Cardone's book, Be Average or Be Obsessed, he really, really drives this point home. Like, you must be obsessed with the change that you want to make. You've got to, or you're going to get average or no results. Right? So why is it important? And when you achieve it, what outcomes are you going to see? Like when you achieve, like with physical health, it's easier, right? Depending on what you're doing. Like if you want to lose weight, easier, your pant sizes change. Okay. But if it's something that might be a little more challenging to measure, you have to know like what it's supposed to look like when you get there. Otherwise, you're going to completely miss the fact that you actually did what you said you were going to do, that you kept your word to yourself and you got it done. And then you're going to miss rewarding yourself for that. So you need to be clear on what is it going to look like when you get there. Right. And sometimes it looks completely different than you thought it would be, in a good way. And sometimes, it doesn't look like we thought. And so we miss it. So just make sure that you know what it looks like. And then how will your life be better when you do it? You need to like write these down, and you need to have them where you can see them, because if you're going to have to reattach to them. And if you don't have them where you can write them down, that's usually why things go by the wayside. All right. Because the next thing you're going to have to do is over here. You're going to have to create a new habit for this behavior, which means you're going to have to do things differently than you have been doing them. And you're going to have to give something up. This is also where people get stuck with creating these things in their lives, is they want to do everything exactly the same and they don't want to give up anything. I know for me personally, what happens for me is sometimes the pressures of other people's priorities push on me, and I'll allow that to stop me or slow me down. Right? So I'll have to decide what to stop. And what will that be? But sometimes you have to do an analysis of where are you wasting your time, because we all waste time doing some things that don't move us forward. My friend Will Potter, which Will, I always quote you on this, there's 3 ways you can spend your time, invest your time, or waste your time. And a lot of us have some areas where we're wasting time. And if it's an intentional waste of time, as long as you're intentional about it, just be aware that those are the 3 ways you're spending your time. We all have the same amount of time. It's just what we choose to do with it. So you're going to have to make some different choices on how you're doing. And you may have to learn something new. You may have to get a new skill. You may have to learn something new, which is the great thing about the time that we live in now, because we live in a Google, YouTube world. So we don't have to go to the library. We don't have to wait for, I know this is dating me, I'm sure, but we don't have to wait for things to come in the mail. They used to have to wait for correspondence courses. You don't have to go to a college to get that new skill. Education information is everywhere. You don't have to go, you don't even have to leave your house to get educated on a new skill, which is what is great about the time that we live in. So you're going to have to attach to why you want to change. You're going to have to create a new habit for this behavior. Then you're going to have an accountability partner, right? Now, this one can be tricky because you have some of the goals, when they get really big, you have to be careful who you share them with, because some people don't want you to change and they're not going to be supportive in you in this. So your accountability partner has to be someone that believes the best, wants the best for you, believes the best in you, and is going to care enough to let you know when you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And that's the tricky part of an accountability partner. Again, we have that built into our environment in martial arts. We all hold each other accountable for that. We also have something, physically that we demonstrate, but attitude and leadership is something we hold each other accountable for as well. So you need someone that's going to help remind you why you wanted this in the first place. Okay. And it's not always comfortable. We just did this with a customer of ours, a real estate customer, and one of the agents told me what he wanted. But when we started talking about massive action and what actions he was taking, he tried to give me a non-answer answer of, well, I'm going to get it. And I agreed with him. And I said, I'm sure, I know that you will, but when? You're going to get 50 years from now, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, 3 months from now. That's where we have to help each other out. Okay. So I had to hold him accountable. It wasn't comfortable for him, but that's what I do. That's my job, is to help you stay attached to what you're doing. Your accountability partner is not going to accept your excuses for not getting it done. That's, in our school, we live in a no excuse zone. We're responsible for all of our outcomes, and we don't accept excuses for not doing things. And it's a place that you need someone in your life to hold you accountable for, because it's easy to do, especially in the time we're living now with COVID. Then we're after COVID, but now we might be back in COVID. So COVID is a really good excuse for a lot of people to not do the things that they say they were going to do. But we cannot accept excuses. If we are going to do what we say we're going to do, if we're going to live to our purpose, we're going to live to our potential, then we have to hold ourselves accountable for that and make sure that we don't make those excuses. But the good thing about being an accountability partner, it's not all bad. It's not all blah, blah, negative, but we get to celebrate your success with you, right? We get to help you celebrate the success that you have. And that's part of setting like where your points are going to be. When you know that you're at 0 and you're going to 5 and you get to that part, that's a celebration. Woo, woo, we got it. But when you get a 5 to 10, it's another celebration. And you get to 10 to 15, another celebration. So your accountability partner gets to help you celebrate those markers. A long time ago, Art Radke and BNI told me those were waypoints. So you set your waypoints to your goal. So they get to help you celebrate those. Okay. And the last thing you're going to have to do to really, really implement this new success habit and to really see some change is you're going to have to get committed to making the change. Which takes me back to why number 1 is so important. You have to know exactly why it's important. You have to know exactly what outcome you're looking for. And you have to know exactly why your life is going to change. Because when you start to do new things and you start to do stuff, then you're going to get obstacles. The licensee program, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about being a Grant Cardone licensee. And I misjudged, honestly, the excitement that I have for it, and people putting the connection of me being a business owner and a martial artist together. So when people weren't like automatically clicking with that concept, I had to go back to, why is this important? And it's important because as a business owner, I've tried 50 gazillion things to grow my business over the last 12 years. And the things I learned from Grant Cardone were the easiest, simplest, most effective things I've ever done to implement and see huge, huge impact in my business. So that when I talk to someone who tells me, no, they're good, sales are okay, no, we're all right, I got to remember they don't know what they don't know. because I didn't know what I didn't know. So I got to go back to number one. I go back to like, why am I committed to this? I go back to his book, Be Obsessed or Be Average, so that I can be obsessed about why this is so important, not just to me, but to that business owner and to my community, so that I can get back up and go do it again and talk to people and do these videos like I'm doing, because this is not what I wanted to do. And I shared that in other videos. I procrastinated. Lee Jack knows that I've been talking about it for a long time, but to commit to doing it and sharing this with you is part of me going back and attaching to that purpose. Every single person that I know needs to know this material, and I am obsessed about that. Okay. And so staying motivated, you're going to have to stay motivated. Those are the things that I do to stay motivated. We're also, like I said, we're doing the calls on Wednesday at 9:00. Yeah, the calls on Wednesday at 9:00 on how to stay motivated. Like exactly like techniques that you can implement to stay motivated towards your goals, and just realize, don't quit. Don't quit on it. You wanted it for a reason. You felt the need to do it for a purpose. You're not serving yourself or the world by not staying and getting it done. That's what you have to commit to. You have to commit to that, because your desire to show it to us is proof enough. I'm in another group, and we all are working towards getting our courses into the world, and everyone gets hit by, oh, so many people teach this, so many people teach that, but you are you have your own unique abilities and skills. And there are, I don't know how many martial arts instructors in the world, but there's only one martial arts instructor named Tracy Huff. And I'm going to do it different than anyone else, because I am unique. And I have my own set of experiences, not only as a person, but as a martial artist and as a teacher and as an instructor and as a leader than anyone else does. So don't discount what you bring to your purpose, to your passion, to your job, to your profession, as a parent, as a wife, as a mother. It's so important that you don't quit on you, because you're not serving your purpose by doing it. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed. I can't wait to hear what you guys are doing with it. And then I wanted to remind you, again, we do these calls on Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Mondays are Success Habit. Wednesday is our motivation, 100 ways to stay motivated. And then Fridays, I chose Sell or Be Sold because, in my opinion, that book gives you everything you need for selling, starting out with that we all have to sell, and starting with selling ourselves. So that one is not at 9. The Fridays are at 11:30. If you want the links to the those other calls, just DM me. We can Zoom call, and then you can ask your questions, and we can help you at the end of the training sessions. So I can't wait to hear about that. And then if we have an event on Friday, it's the 10X Your Money event. And that's going to be from 8:30 to 4:30. We're going to spend the morning going over the principles. We're going to spend the afternoon developing a plan of action with implementation. So if this is something that you want help with, go to 10X Your Money. It's a bit.ly. I'll put it in the link here, and join us, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the day getting the principles, getting it done, setting a plan, taking action, and no longer waiting to be the people we're supposed to be in the world. All right. So until then, I will see you on Wednesday. All right. Very, very excited.